The alarms at Galaxy Prime Zoo screamed through the air. Red lights flashed everywhere as alien guards ran through the halls. Their faces showed pure fear. Something had gone terribly wrong at the most dangerous part of the zoo. Emergency. Emergency. Security breach in Section D7. A voice boomed through the speakers. This is not a drill. The Shadow Dragon's cage has been breached. Chief Security Officer Zax 427, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, rushed to the security room. His heart nearly stopped when he saw the screen. There, inside the most dangerous creature's cage, stood a tiny human girl. She couldn't be more than 6 years old. Get every guard there now. Zax shouted into his radio. And someone find her parents. The security cameras showed the whole scene. The little girl wore a pink dress with stars on it. Her brown hair was tied in 2 cute pigtails. She looked so small in the massive cage that housed the deadliest creature in 3 galaxies. The Shadow Dragon's cage was bigger than a spaceship hangar. Dark rocks filled the space, and mist covered the ground. Warning signs in 50 different alien languages covered the walls. They all said the same thing. Extreme danger. Do not enter. Behind the thick viewing glass, a crowd of alien tourists gathered. They watched in horror. Some covered their eyes. Others recorded with their devices. No one could reach the girl in time. The cage's safety systems meant it would take 15 minutes to open the doors. Someone get her out. A green alien mother hugged her children close. It's too late, whispered a tall insect-like being. The dragon is waking up. In the deepest shadow of the cage, something moved. 2 giant purple eyes opened in the darkness. Each eye was bigger than the little girl's whole body. The shadow dragon raised its massive head, covered in black scales that seemed to swallow light itself. Everyone knew about this dragon. It had killed 3 handlers just last year. Even other dragons feared it. Now it stared at the tiny human who had somehow entered its territory. The little girl, Sarah, didn't run. She didn't scream. Instead, she did something that made every alien watching gasp in shock. She smiled. "Hello, Mr. Dragon." Sarah's sweet voice echoed in the quiet cage. "Why are you hiding back there? Are you shy?" The dragon's eyes narrowed. Its head, bigger than a truck, moved forward out of the shadows. The creature's teeth were longer than Sarah's arms. One bite could end everything in a second. The aliens watching couldn't look away. Some were crying. Others were calling for help on their devices. But they all knew help would come too late. "You look sad," Sarah said, taking a step closer. The dragon froze. No one had ever walked toward it willingly before. "Mommy says when I'm sad, a kiss makes everything better." "No, no, no," Zax whispered, watching the screens. His blue skin had turned pale. "Someone stop her." But Sarah kept walking. The dragon lowered its massive head, purple eyes fixed on the tiny human. Its hot breath moved her pigtails. One wrong move, one sudden noise, and it would all be over. Then Sarah did it. She reached up with her small hands and planted a gentle kiss right on the dragon's nose. Time seemed to stop. The alarms still flashed, but no one made a sound. The dragon's eyes widened. For a moment, everything hung in perfect silence. Then something amazing happened. The dragon's black scales began to shimmer with tiny points of light, like stars appearing in a night sky. A soft rumble filled the air, but it wasn't threatening. It sounded almost like purring. "See," Sarah giggled, patting the dragon's nose. "Kisses make everything better." The crowd behind the glass stared in disbelief. The deadliest creature known to the galaxy, the terror of the spaceways, the shadow death itself, was nuzzling a little human girl like a happy puppy. Zax's radio crackled. "Sir, we found the girl's parents. They're xenobiologists, Dr. James and Dr. Maria Chen. But sir, you need to see what's happening on the old security recordings. You won't believe how she got in there." The chief security officer looked at his screens, where Sarah was now scratching under the dragon's chin while the massive creature made happy rumbling sounds. "Trust me," he said, "I'm ready to believe anything right now." And this was just the beginning of how a little human girl changed everything the galaxy thought they knew about the feared shadow dragons. 1 week earlier, Sarah Chen bounced through the gates of Galaxy Prime Zoo, her light-up shoes twinkling with each step. Her parents, both wearing the blue uniforms of the zoo's science team, walked behind her. "Remember, sweetie," Dr. Maria Chen said, checking her data pad, "this isn't like Earth zoos. Some of these creatures can sense emotions." But Sarah wasn't listening. She had stopped in front of a huge hologram map, her eyes locked onto a dark section marked with warning symbols. "What's that, Daddy?" Dr. James Chen knelt beside his daughter. "That's section D7. It's where they keep the shadow dragon. Not even Mommy and I are allowed in there." Sarah tilted her head. "Is it the dragon that makes the pretty music?" Her parents looked at each other in confusion. "What music, sweetheart?" "The singing. I hear it at night in my dreams. It sounds like stars twinkling." Sarah twirled around, humming a strange melody that made nearby alien visitors stop and stare. An old alien caretaker dropping his bucket of food. His 3 eyes widened as he listened to Sarah's song. He shuffled over, his wrinkled green skin quivering with excitement. "Young one," he wheezed, "where did you learn that melody?" "The dragon teaches it to me when I sleep." Sarah smiled brightly. The old alien, whose name tag read Keeper Vix, pulled Sarah's parents aside. "In 50 years working here, I've only heard stories. The ancient texts speak of shadow dragons singing to those they choose as bondmates, but it hasn't happened in 1,000 years. Dr. Maria frowned. "But that's just a legend, right? The shadow dragon is the most dangerous predator we've ever encountered. Last month, it destroyed a reinforced steel wall just because a guard got too close." Keeper Vix shook his head. "Follow me. There's something you need to see." He led them to the dragon's viewing area. Unlike the other exhibits, this one was nearly empty. Most visitors were too scared to get close, but Sarah ran right up to the glass. The massive dark shape in the shadows lifted its head instantly, purple eyes fixed on Sarah. The dragon moved closer to the glass than anyone had ever seen it come before. "Watch," Keeper Vix whispered. Sarah placed her tiny hand on the glass. The dragon, to everyone's shock, brought its enormous nose to the exact same spot on the other side. The glass between them began to glow with a soft purple light. "Impossible," Dr. James breathed. "The glass is supposed to be energy resistant." "Hi," Sarah chirped at the dragon. "I brought you something." She pulled a crayon drawing from her pocket and held it up. It showed her and the dragon playing together in a field of stars. The dragon's eyes studied the picture. Then it did something that made every alien in the room gasp. It sat down like a puppy and tilted its head, copying Sarah's usual curious pose. "She's been drawing that same picture every day for weeks," Dr. Maria said softly. "We thought she was just going through a dragon phase." Keeper Vix nodded solemnly. "The bond has already begun. Look at its scales." Where the dragon's scales had always been pure black, tiny spots of light were starting to appear, like a star map coming to life. Suddenly, Sarah yawned. The dragon immediately lay down, as if preparing for a nap too. "The dragon says it's sleepy," Sarah mumbled. "It doesn't like being alone in the dark all the time." Dr. James picked up his drowsy daughter. "But how is this possible? The shadow dragon's mind is supposed to be unreadable. Even our best psychics can't get near it." "Perhaps," Keeper Vix said, watching Sarah drift off to sleep, "we've been trying too hard. The texts say shadow dragons don't bond with the strongest mind or the wisest soul. They choose the purest heart." As Sarah's parents carried her away, the dragon watched them leave. For the first time in its centuries of captivity, its eyes held something new: hope. But none of them noticed the security cameras flickering strangely whenever Sarah hummed the dragon's song. None of them saw how the heavy doors to Section D7 would shimmer with purple light late at night, and none of them realized that the bond between a little human girl and the galaxy's deadliest creature was about to change everything. In her sleep that night, Sarah smiled as the dragon's song grew stronger. Soon, very soon, she would show everyone that the scariest-looking creature could have the kindest heart. But first, she had to figure out how to give it a proper hug. Strange things started happening at Galaxy Prime Zoo. In the cafeteria, all the floating food trays began spinning in circles whenever Sarah walked past. The zoo's automatic doors opened for her before she even got close. But strangest of all were the drawings. Sarah couldn't stop drawing. Her crayons moved across paper like they had a mind of their own. Each picture showed the same thing, her and the shadow dragon, but in different places. One showed them flying through space together. Another had them playing in a field of glowing flowers. The most unusual drawing showed the dragon teaching her to make stars. "Look, Mommy." Sarah held up her latest drawing. "The dragon says this is its home planet." Dr. Maria Chen nearly dropped her coffee. The drawing showed a world with 3 moons and purple clouds. It was exactly like the classified photos she'd seen in the zoo's secret files, photos of the shadow dragon's homeworld that no one had ever shown Sarah. That night, while Sarah slept, her parents searched her room. "James, look at this." Dr. Maria pointed to Sarah's walls. In the dark, tiny dots of light pulsed on the wallpaper. They formed constellations that weren't from Earth or any known alien star system. "Just like the dragon's scales," Dr. James whispered. Down in the zoo's underground lab, more odd things were occurring. Every computer that had data about the shadow dragon started acting weirdly. Screens would flicker and show strange symbols that looked like musical notes. The zoo's best tech experts couldn't explain it. But the weirdest changes were happening to the shadow dragon itself. "Sir, you need to see this," a young guard called to Chief Zax. "The dragon. It's different." The security footage showed the mighty creature doing something new. It was practicing smiling. In the dark of its cage, the dragon would bare its teeth, then adjust them, trying to make its scary grin look friendlier. Sometimes it would even make faces at itself in the reflection of its water pool. "It's trying to look less scary," Keeper Vix explained to Sarah's parents. "In all my years, I've never seen anything like it. Shadow dragons are proud creatures. They never try to change themselves for anyone." One afternoon, Sarah sat in the zoo's library, surrounded by floating hologram books about dragons. She wasn't reading them. She was correcting them. "That's wrong," she said, pointing to a page about shadow dragons being cold-blooded. "They're warm inside. They have to be, to carry stars in their hearts." Keeper Vix wrote down everything she said. The old alien had noticed something fascinating. Whenever Sarah talked about dragons, the ancient symbols on his medallion glowed purple. But not everyone was happy about these changes. Some of the zoo's security team were worried. They'd noticed their weapons didn't work properly around Sarah. The energy rifles would power down, and the force field generators would start playing music instead of creating barriers. "The dragon says weapons hurt its feelings," Sarah explained simply when asked. "So I asked the zoo to make them take a nap." Chief Zax found himself dealing with more unusual reports every day. The plants near Section D7 started growing in spiral patterns. Other animals would bow their heads when Sarah walked past. The zoo's universal translator began picking up songs in an unknown language. Security cameras would catch glimpses of starry shapes moving through walls at night. One evening, as Sarah's parents were preparing to leave the zoo, their daughter asked a question that made them freeze. "Mommy, Daddy, why did humans and aliens lock up all the shadow dragons?" Dr. James knelt beside her. "Sweetie, there's only one shadow dragon, and it's very dangerous. That's why it's here." Sarah shook her head, her eyes twinkling with starlight. "No, there were many. They used to dance between stars and sing worlds into being, but something made them hide. The dragon showed me in my dreams. Before her parents could respond, every light in the zoo flickered. In Section D7, the shadow dragon lifted its head, its scales now shimmering with so many points of light that it looked like a piece of the night sky had come alive. The dragon's eyes glowed purple as it looked toward the setting sun. Tomorrow would be special. Tomorrow, the dragon would finally show everyone what a little human girl had known all along, that sometimes the scariest creatures were just lonely stars looking for a friend. In her pocket, Sarah's latest drawing showed something new. A little girl opening a very big door, and a dragon teaching her how to wake up the stars. The next morning would change everything. But for now, Sarah just smiled at her drawing and hummed the dragon's song, while somewhere in the zoo, ancient locks began to shimmer with starlight. The morning started with a peculiar sight. Every mirror in Galaxy Prime Zoo was covered in frost patterns that looked like dragon scales. When Sarah touched one, the frost melted into tiny drops that floated upward instead of falling down. "The dragon is crying," Sarah announced at breakfast, watching her cereal swirl in perfect spiral patterns without using her spoon. But not sad tears. Happy tears. It remembers something important. In the dragon's enclosure, something extraordinary was happening. The feared shadow dragon hadn't eaten its usual meal of stellar crystals and quantum-enhanced meat. Instead, it was drawing in the dirt with its massive claws. The patterns looked exactly like the ones Sarah had been doodling all week. Keeper Vix translated the ancient symbols while his medallion pulsed with purple light. "Impossible," he whispered. "These are coordinates. Star maps from before humans even left Earth." Dr. Maria found Sarah in the zoo's holo garden, where the artificial flowers were all turning to face her daughter instead of the artificial sun. "Sweetie, we need to talk about the dragon." "It's okay, Mommy," Sarah said, braiding light beams like they were ribbons. "The dragon told me why it was so angry before. The stars in its heart were sleeping, but I helped wake them up." Suddenly, every screen in the zoo flickered to life. They all showed the same image, a star system no one had seen before. In Section D7, the dragon raised its head and sang a note so deep it made the ground shake. Chief Zax burst into the security room. "Status report. Why are all our systems?" He stopped mid-sentence. The security cameras were showing something impossible. The shadow dragon's scales weren't just glowing now. They were projecting a galaxy map across its entire enclosure. And in the center of each projected star, there was a tiny image of what looked like dragons dancing. "Sir," a young guard called out, "you need to see the old files. They're changing." The classified documents about the shadow dragon's capture were rewriting themselves. Where there had been reports of a violent beast, new words appeared in flowing script. "We were not meant to be hunters, but guardians. We sang the stars to sleep when they grew too bright, and woke them when the universe grew too dark. We were the starlight shepherds, until fear made us hide our light." In the zoo's research lab, Dr. James Chen watched in amazement as every plant sample near the dragon's scale fragments began to glow and float. "The dragon says plants remember," Sarah explained, suddenly appearing beside him. "They remember when dragons helped stars grow in the ground instead of just in the sky." A group of alien visitors screamed as their floating camera devices formed a circle and started projecting images of ancient dragon temples on distant worlds. Each temple had the same symbol Sarah had been drawing, a spiral of stars with a dragon's eye in the center. Keeper Vix found an old translation crystal in his quarters. When he held it up to Sarah's latest drawings, it showed words in a language so old it made his medallion hum. "When the smallest heart wakes the biggest star, the shepherds will remember who they are." The zoo's quantum computers started calculating something massive. Numbers and equations filled every screen, all pointing to one conclusion. The shadow dragon species wasn't just powerful. They were essential to the universe's balance. They helped baby stars grow up, Sarah said, now floating a few inches off the ground without noticing. But then everyone got scared of how bright they were, so they hid their light inside, and pretended to be scary instead. In its enclosure, the dragon was changing. The black scales were becoming transparent like crystal, showing galaxies swirling beneath them. Its purple eyes now held entire nebulae. When it moved, stardust fell from its wings. Dr. Maria found more transformed files, these showing shadow dragons teaching young stars how to spin just right to form solar systems. They were cosmic gardeners, she realized, not predators at all. The dragon's song grew stronger, making all artificial lights in the zoo flicker out. But no one needed them anymore. The entire building was lit by the soft purple glow emanating from Sarah's direction as she hummed along with the ancient melody. Chief Zax watched his security screens in awe as a new message appeared. Tomorrow, a child's kiss will remind a star shepherd of its true purpose. Tomorrow, the light comes home. Sarah fell asleep that night surrounded by floating toys that danced like planets in orbit. Her last drawing showed something that made her parents gasp. A perfect map of tomorrow, with a little girl, a dragon, and thousands of sleeping stars waiting to wake up. In Section D7, the shadow dragon's enclosure had become a window into space itself. Through the glass, visitors could see not just one dragon, but the echoes of thousands, their starlight hearts beating in harmony as they waited for a little girl to remind them what they once were. And in her dreams, Sarah practiced one very important lesson: how to help a dragon remember that it was never supposed to be feared, but loved. The stage was set. Tomorrow would bring the biggest change the galaxy had ever seen, all because a child saw light where everyone else saw shadows. The moment Sarah's kiss touched the shadow dragon's nose, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, everything changed. It started with a single scale turning from black to crystal clear, revealing a tiny galaxy spinning inside. Like falling dominoes, the transformation spread across the dragon's entire body. Each scale became a window into space itself, showing stars being born, cosmic dances, and ancient memories of when dragons shepherded starlight. The dragon's purple eyes opened wide, and suddenly every screen in Galaxy Prime Zoo displayed the same message in shimmering letters. Starlight Protocol activated. Cosmic restoration beginning. Sarah giggled as she floated up to eye level with the dragon, surrounded by a gentle purple glow. See, I told everyone you weren't scary. You're just a big space puppy who forgot how to play. The dragon made a sound that was part purr, part song, and part stardust. Every alien who heard it felt their translation devices spark and display a single phrase. The little star heart speaks truth. We remember now. Remarkable things began happening throughout the zoo. The artificial gravity turned off, but not chaos ensued. Instead, everyone and everything floated in perfect orbital patterns around Sarah and the dragon. Alien children squealed with delight as they danced through the air in spiral paths marked by trailing stardust. Keeper Vix's ancient medallion cracked open like an egg, releasing a shower of tiny lights that formed into miniature dragons. They flew around the old alien, updating his knowledge with the true history of the star shepherds. Fascinating, Dr. Maria exclaimed, watching her datapad rewrite itself. The shadow dragons weren't imprisoned by ancient warriors. They chose to sleep until the universe was ready for their light again. The dragon extended one massive wing, now transparent like cosmic glass. Inside each scale, Sarah could see different moments in time. Dragons teaching baby stars how to shine steadily. Star shepherds singing lullabies to calm supernovas. Ancient dragon courts where cosmic laws were written in starlight. The first human cave paintings that showed dragons in the night sky. Chief Zax watched in amazement as his security systems transformed. The weapons turned into crystalline flowers. The force fields became aurora curtains that sang gentle harmonies. The prison-like enclosure melted away into a garden of constellation flowers and meteor fruits. The dragon says we don't need guards anymore, Sarah explained, while braiding threads of starlight into the dragon's mane. Star shepherds protect everyone. They don't need protecting. Dr. James's scientific instruments went crazy, then settled into showing entirely new kinds of measurements. Levels of joy in nearby star systems, the happiness index of passing comets, how many dreams were born each second in the galaxy, the rhythm of universal harmony. The dragon stood up to its full height, and its body became like a living planetarium. But instead of just showing stars, it displayed the web of connections between all living things. Golden threads linked parents to children, friends to friends, and hearts to hearts across the galaxy. Sarah's old drawings flew from her pockets and danced through the air, turning into real scenes as they moved. A group of shadow dragons teaching young stars to twirl. Star shepherds healing sick planets with cosmic songs. Dragons playing catch with gentle meteors. Star nurseries where dragon lullabies helped new stars grow. Other animals in the zoo began to change too. The cosmic energy awakened ancient memories in their DNA. The space rabbits remembered when their ancestors hopped between stars. The cosmic peacocks recalled how their feathers once painted nebula. The stellar serpents remembered braiding solar winds into paths for travelers. But the most amazing change happened when the dragon taught Sarah its first lesson in star speaking. She opened her mouth and sang a note that made flowers grow from stardust and sad hearts feel light again. That's just the beginning. Sarah translated for the dragon, while stars danced around them both. Wait until I show you how to juggle planets. Alien scientists rushed to document everything, but their instruments kept turning into musical instruments that played the songs of distant stars. Eventually, they learned to simply watch and wonder as Sarah and her dragon demonstrated what the universe was always meant to be, a place where light and dark danced together. And the scariest things turned out to be the most magical. The dragon lowered its starlit head to Sarah's level and spoke its first words in 1,000 years, which everyone somehow understood. Little Starheart, you didn't just wake me up. You reminded the whole universe how to dream. And as night fell over Galaxy Prime Zoo, visitors were treated to the most spectacular sight yet. Sarah and the dragon teaching the stars how to dance again, painting the sky with colors that hadn't been seen since the beginning of time. In the dragon's scales, countless new stories were beginning. But that's what happens when a little girl's kiss reminds a star shepherd that love is the brightest light of all. 1 month after Sarah's kiss changed everything. Galaxy Prime Zoo wasn't really a zoo anymore. It had transformed into the Star Shepherd Academy for Cosmic Harmony, the first school where humans, aliens, and magical creatures could learn the ancient art of starlight tending. Sarah, now known as the Little Star Whisperer, sat atop her dragon's crystalline head, teaching her first class of students. Around them floated children of all species, each paired with their own magical creature. Remember, Sarah said, while casually juggling tiny stars between her fingers, every star has a different song. You have to listen with your heart, not your ears. The shadow dragon, no longer shadow but shimmering with galaxies in its scales, demonstrated by singing that gentle note. The sound made the fabric of space ripple like waves on a cosmic ocean. Baby stars popped up like daisies in the ripples, giggling with stellar light. Remarkable changes had spread across the universe. The Universal Council had appointed Sarah as the Chief Star Shepherd Ambassador. At 6 years old, she was the youngest diplomat in galactic history. Her office was a piece of living starlight that followed her around like a puppy. Keeper Vix had discovered his true identity. His medallion hadn't just been a piece of jewelry. It was a seed from the original Star Shepherd tree, which now grew in the center of the academy. Its branches held different time zones, and its fruits granted wishes to kind hearts. Dr. Maria and Dr. James Chen had founded the Department of Magical Xenobiology. Their research revealed that every species had hidden starlight genes waiting to be awakened. Their latest paper, Hugs as a Catalyst for Cosmic Evolution, had revolutionized science. Chief Zax found his true calling as the teacher of creative security solutions, showing students how to turn force fields into rainbow bridges and transform defense systems into harmony generators. His favorite lesson was how to make friends with your inner supernova. The most amazing changes happened in space itself. Old constellations rearranged themselves into new stories. Meteor showers wrote poetry across the sky. Black holes transformed into cosmic recycling centers, where old stars went to become new dreams. Nebulae started painting themselves in colors that hadn't existed before. Comets learned to stop and ask for directions. Sarah's original dragon led the restoration of the star shepherds. Each day, more shadow dragons emerged from their hiding places between dimensions. They came in all colors now. Some had auroras flowing through their scales. Others had mini solar systems orbiting their horns. A few had tails that painted new constellations. The youngest ones hiccupped stardust and sneezed cosmic rainbows. The Academy grounds became famous for its unique features. The Constellation Garden, where students could pick star fruits that granted cosmic wisdom. The Gravity Dance Hall, where different gravity levels taught beings how to waltz through space. The Dream Laboratory, where young star shepherds learned to weave good dreams for sleeping planets. The Cosmic Petting Zoo, where reformed space monsters gave rides to children. Sarah's bedroom had become a minor tourist attraction. Her crayon drawings now came to life and flew around like butterflies made of starlight. Each one told a different story about friendship between species that had once feared each other. But the most incredible transformation was in how the universe itself had changed. Fear became outdated. After all, it's hard to be scared when your local shadow dragon offers free hugs and stellar counseling. Every creature discovered its own inner light, leading to some surprising developments. Grumpy old stars learned to sparkle again. Shy planets discovered they could sing. Lonely asteroids formed dancing clubs. Even space dust found out it could spell messages of hope. On graduation day of the Academy, Sarah stood before the assembled beings of 1,000 worlds. Her dragon, wearing a comically large professor's cap made of constellation patterns, stood proudly beside her. "When I first kissed my dragon's nose," Sarah announced, while floating on a cloud of gentle starlight, "I didn't know I was waking up the whole universe. I just knew that sometimes the scariest things are just magic that forgot how to smile." The dragon nuzzled her affectionately, causing a shower of shooting stars to rain down harmlessly around them. Each star carried a message of love in every language of the cosmos. "And now," Sarah continued, her eyes twinkling with infinite possibilities, "who wants to learn how to teach black holes to do backflips?" 1,000 hands, paws, tentacles, and energy appendages shot up eagerly. In orbit above them, the first graduating class of star shepherd dragons performed an aerial ballet that would be remembered for centuries as the day the universe remembered how to laugh. And so, the story that began with a kiss ended with a universe transformed. But really, it wasn't an ending at all. It was just the first chapter in an endless story about how love can turn shadows into starlight, and how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show a monster how to dance. Sarah's original drawing, the one that started it all, now hangs in the Academy's Great Hall. It shows a little girl, a dragon, and a simple truth written in crayon and starlight. Even the darkest scales can hide the brightest hearts. All they need is someone brave enough to see the light inside.